What's up? It's Cash Color. It's your boy Mecca, Cash Color Cannabis, high level conversation, back at it live, hiphopdaily.tv. And y'all just missed a really spirited basketball conversation, and I would get into it tonight, but I only got limited time. I got to do something actually in the morning. I got to fly out soon. But I wanted to come on and tell everybody, first off, thank you for everybody who's been listening, streaming, sharing, commenting on our latest venture, which is our podcast special, which is called Black on Green. So for those who don't know, Black on Green is a 5-episode podcast special we're doing for Cash Color Cannabis, where we take a deep look into the cannabis industry from a black perspective. And I think I mentioned it before. It spun off the fact that I was actually started this whole process off as a documentary called The Color Green, where we were looking at cannabis at that point from a black perspective. So we started filming that in 2015, and I never finished filming it. And it's one of them things that kind of sit on my mind sometimes, like, dang, you got to finish that. You know what I mean? Like, we came a long way with that. And this is still not me finishing it, but this is me giving it another little extended piece of life, and we just doing it in audio version. So each episode, we discuss things that we would have discussed in the movie. We talk about generational issues in black households when it comes to the perception of cannabis. We talk about politics and what's going on in politics, from everything from social equity to how certain politicians are using the cannabis topic as a political football when it comes to elections, all the way down to hip hop and mainstream media's new look at how cannabis consumers are. You know what I mean? How we don't have these Shaggy from Scooby-Doo looks that much anymore when it comes to who consumes cannabis. So it's been really dope. You know what I mean? It's been each episode has been 30 minutes. I like to shout out my man Jarrell Wall, who's actually been one of the contributors on these episodes. He is one of the co-founders of Gentleman Quinn's Blunt Company, which is based out of Denver, Colorado. Shout out to Jarrell, because Jarrell has been handling the audio for us, man. He actually did some mixing for us for his last episode, and we're gonna work with him a lot more over the last two. So shout out to Jarrell. But some of the people who were involved: Tamika Drew with Beco Farms, activist Shanita Penny, Jeanette Ward, Brandy Hester Harrell, Safita Artist Mills, Ernest Tony, Roz McCarthy. The list goes on. It's been an amazing group of people who stopped by to chime in about their perspectives of our topic. So, and what we hope to accomplish with the podcast is not only give another level to Cash Color Cannabis overall, but to showcase that, you know, some new things that we will be doing with Cash Color Cannabis, where everything isn't going to be an individual episode. We'll probably be doing, actually, I know it for a fact, we're going to be doing more episodic versions of the podcast. We're working on a new one right now. I can't give away the title because we have just kind of locked in the sponsor for that one, but it's going to be about Georgia. And the one following after that, we're going to be looking at the underground scene. So I really think it's dope, man. It's one of them things I've been wanting to do. And I always look at it, you got to rip off Band-Aids. I never thought about not only doing the audio, but editing the audio, putting everything together piece by piece, like how I'm doing right now. But it's definitely a start, and I'm learning a lot about audio edit. So shout out to everybody like Last Name Good and all them who do this like professionally and do it well. I admire the shit out of y'all, because that's not easy. You know what I'm saying? That's not easy. I've learned at this point, it now takes me about an hour and a half to chop up something that's 30 minutes. But when I did my first one, it took 2.5 days. It took 2.5 days for me to clip each clip how I wanted to, put it where I needed to be, cut the narration, cut the intros. It took a minute, but I'm glad that I actually knocked this out, because this has actually been such an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. Herb, have you had a chance to listen? Yo, Black on Green has appreciate it, man. My wife actually told me it sounded like NPR. It sounded like you doing some NPR shit. And that's been a huge, 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 I've been getting a lot of praise for it, and I do appreciate that. I'm not somebody who likes to brag about the praise, but some of the comments we've been getting on the page, some of the comments we getting on YouTube, some of the comments we've been getting in our DMs, I love the fact that people have sat, listened, chimed in, and really looked at what we were trying to do here, which was not just interview a bunch of people, but tell a story. And what I can say is this was inspired, shout out to my man Brandon Peters. This was inspired by listening to Brandon Peters' The History of the Bay podcast. History of the Bay. I don't want to get it confused. Shout out to my man out who actually does History of the Bay. But Brandon's was called Brandon, my bad, because I want to say, yeah, man, Brandon, I'm not gonna even play you tonight, man, because you definitely was You definitely was a inspiration when it comes to this. When it came to this podcast, but listening to your show, remember the time, the hyphy movement. Shout out to Brandon Peters. Remember the time, the hyphy movement inspired me to do this because listening to what he did with Red Bull and how they told the story of the hyphy movement, and it wasn't just hyphy itself. They went back about the history of the Bay, about some of the music, the mob era, and all that stuff. It was super dope. And yeah, I definitely want to give Brandon his flowers. If you get a chance, wherever you stream podcasts, make sure you check out Remember the Time, the hyphy movement, because it was super dope. And after I sat and listened to every episode of that, I said to myself, yo, I got to start expanding out Cash Color Canvas. Everything can't be an individual episode every time. Let's start telling stories. We have this ability. Let's start expanding this.
It's about refurbishing the content you have.
Truth.
Being that when you hear it, and then now you be like, damn. But whenever you put it out, and I can actually see the people talking. That's another shit.
Yeah, man, it's dope. It's dope, man. So yeah, shout out to him. That definitely was a big inspiration as far as me stepping out and doing that. I don't know if Brandon edited it all by himself and all that, but definitely you helped me out when it comes to actually having the idea because I was so inspired after listening to that I was like, we got to change up Cash Color Cannabis. There's no way, what I'm saying. I let this opportunity of us being able to tell these stories that we can do fade to black. So the new episode is out right now. Episode 3 of the Black on Green is out right this second. The title of this one is The Social Equity Problem in the Actual People's Party. And for this episode, we talk about social equity, some of the issues that people have seen with social equity programs from state to state. We speak about lack of funding for black-owned businesses, certain social equity um, um, I'm sorry, I'm watching basketball too at the same time. certain people in business who are actually selling their licenses, and we also get into the actual People's Party, which is the United Empowerment Party. When we talk about people, political parties who actually care about the plant, actually care about pushing all the legislation forward and doing it and bringing social equity to a point where it's actually equitable. So if you got a chance, stream that right now. That's live on Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, all platforms that you stream podcasts. So I just want to come on tonight and tell everybody thank you for that. We're going to be dropping new episodes of a new special coming soon. Like I say, I'll be announcing that probably in the next couple of weeks. And just prepare to see a lot more of that come through Cash Color Cannabis, along with single episode shows. We're still going to be bringing that, so don't worry about that. But thank you for supporting us through this whole time. What's up?
Talk about the magazine too, because the topic for the magazine is a very important topic that I know a lot of people want to.
Oh, true. Because the topic of the magazine is called Out of Business. And we talk about black-owned businesses in cannabis.
No, shit you just put up about the next issue is about how to fucking transport this shit.
Oh, that one story. Oh, shout out to me here. So we working on that. Thanks for her for reminding me. So we about to drop the second issue of the magazine, Cash Color Campus magazine, in the next week or so. It's going to layout. It was supposed to go to layout last Monday, but I decided to delay it because I was waiting on the approval from one story. But it'll be going out soon. And one story that we're dropping is called Fly Safe. And it was contributed by my good friend Michael Lawson Jr. And it breaks down different ways that you can protect yourself when flying with bud. So he gives us 4 different tips on how you can break that, on how you can do that, and make sure that you don't get yourself arrested, don't get your weed confiscated, and you don't end up looking like a fool in the airport as you try to bring through weed. Also, he does say specifically that you still at all times got to be cautious. Like all these things aren't foolproof methods. You still also at the same time got to be cautious. But when you think about the magazine too, also the cover story this month is going to be my man Tahir Johnson. He is the owner of Simply Pure New Jersey, and we speak to him about his journey as far as opening his first dispensary, how he got into cannabis, working with Wanda James. It's a great story. And actually, me and Tahir have sat down and had this conversation about 3 times now. So it's the first time it's actually going into print form. If you can remember, me and Tahir sat down when we was at MJ Biz, and we discussed Simply Pure back then. And he's still in the process of actually getting the store open. It's one of the things you learn in the cannabis business, one of the things you learn on the podcast special too. How hard it is to actually open up the store and how hard it is to actually get all the money up. And it's just so many hoops and ladders that cannabis business owners have to go through that it's insane. But we got a amazing new issue about to come out, as well as this podcast. Please keep supporting the podcast. But Cash Color Cannabis, we're gonna continue to try to keep elevating the conversation. And shout out to everybody who listens. Shout out to everybody who subscribes to the magazine. Shout out to everybody who has supported this from the beginning. Because words of Tamika Drew, who are one of one of the interviewees for the podcast special, she had reminded me that we have to give ourselves flowers because this is an industry that isn't built for us to be successful. So anybody like myself, to her, to anybody who's still in this, give yourself some flowers. Give yourself some flowers because you're working on something that is based on you're working in an industry that's really not built for you to be successful. So thank you everybody who has supported us, and I appreciate you for watching tonight. I appreciate you for supporting the podcast, supporting the magazine, and everything we do. It's your boy Mecca. It's Cash Color Cannabis. It's high level of conversation, and we are here at livehiphopdaily.tv. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me.